Hi everyone, it's Miss Haley again. So for today's video, I'm going to be going over the 7.1.2 checkup for this week in preparation for your quiz on Apex. So let's get started. Alright, so here's the 7.1.2 checkup. So these are just a bunch of examples of using the midpoint formula. So remember the midpoint formula, all you're doing is you're finding the middle point between two endpoints. So all you have to do is take the average of the x coordinates, average of the y coordinates, and that gives you your midpoint coordinate. Alright, so it says write the midpoint of the segment as an ordered pair. So in other words, just find the midpoint. Alright, so we have our point 1, 2, and 5, 8. So there's our x and y, and then another x and y. So if we want to find the midpoint, all we have to do is take the average of the x and the y values. Alright, so we can add the x values, 1 plus 5, and divide by 2. And then add the y values and divide by 2. So you can do these separate, or you can do this how I'm showing right here, where you put it directly in the parentheses and then simplify from there. Alright, so 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 divided by 2, 10 divided by 2. So that means our final midpoint is going to be 3, 5. So then if you were to graph that, you'd be able to see that the point 3, 5, it's hard for me to graph with this, but that's directly in the middle of those two endpoints. So for the future problems, I'm going to be skipping this step. I'm going to be skipping this step. I'm just going to go ahead and jump straight to this step, just to save us a little bit of time and space. Alright, so with number 2, we have our midpoint. If we add the two x values, we get 1 over 2. And then if we add the two y values, we get 8, and then divide by 2. So our final midpoint is going to be 1/2. Since that doesn't simplify, 8 divided by 2 is 4. You could also write the 1 over 2 as 0.5. Moving on, let's look here. So if we want to find the midpoint, add the two x values. Negative 3 plus 4 is positive 1 divided by 2. 2 plus negative 5 is negative 3 over 2. And neither of those can be divided. So you can either write it as this, or you could write it as this. Either way. If you prefer fractions, which is what I prefer, write it like that. Alright, last one on this page. We want to find the midpoint. Add the two x values. Negative 6 plus negative 2 is negative 8 over 2. Negative 5 plus negative 1 is negative 6 over 2. So our final midpoint is going to be negative 4, negative 3 after you divide those out. Alright, so first page is already done. Let's keep going. Alright, here we have a vertical midpoint. So we know, since it's vertical, right, we know the midpoint is going to have negative 4, or the same x value, so we just have to find the midpoint between 8 and 2. So we're going to take the average of the two midpoints, or the two endpoints, sorry, for the y values. So our final midpoint is going to be 8 plus 2 is 10, 10 divided by 2 is 5. If you're not comfortable with leaving this how it is, you could take the average of negative 4 and negative 4, but the average is negative 4 and negative 4 is just negative 4, right? And so you know that the midpoint is going to have that same x value, that's why you don't have to calculate it. Here we have a horizontal segment, so we know the y value is going to stay the same for the midpoint, so we just have to find the average of the x values. So negative 1 plus 9 over 2, and then we know the midpoint is going to have a y value of 2 as well, since we know the midpoint is going to be around there. Negative 1 plus 9 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So our midpoint is 4, 2. Perfect. Alright, we're getting back to diagonal midpoints. So this is where we have to actually take the average of the x and the y values. Alright, so let's find that. Alright, so negative 7 plus 7 is 0. 0 divided by 2. 2 plus negative 4 is negative 2, so we have negative 2 divided by 2 for our y value. 0 divided by 2 is 0. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1, so there's a midpoint. Alright, keep going. Alright, midpoint. Alright, 2 plus 8 is 10. And then we have the same for our y values. 2 plus 8 is 10, divided by 2. So our midpoint is going to be 5, 5. I don't know why it's so hard to write on this today. Alright, last 2 examples and then we'll be done and hopefully you'll be ready for your quiz. Alright, taking the average of the x and the y value. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. 7 plus 1 is 8, divided by 2. Alright, so then our midpoint is going to be negative 1, 4. Perfect. Alright, last one. Midpoint. Take the average. Negative 6 plus negative 1 is negative 7, divided by 2. And negative 1 plus negative 6 is again negative 7 divided by 2. And since neither of those can be divided evenly, we can just leave it like that. Or you can write it as negative 3.5, negative 3.5. Alright, so we worked through all of the examples. Actually, wait. Oh, yep, that's it. We worked through all of the examples for the checkup. So, I hope that helped prepare you for your quiz this week. And if you have any questions, make sure to reach out by email or on Teams. And good luck on your quiz. Stay safe.